Happy Friday, everyone. This is the Fight HQ podcast as we're here to talk UFC Vegas number 76. Of course, goes down tomorrow inside the UFC Apex. Of course, headlined by Strickland and Magomedov, a main event that's just a very weird fight that got put together. We'll be here for the next hour breaking this one down for you. Of course, as always, I am joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr., who I'm on Instagram yesterday, and did we make a little hairstyle change?
Yeah, we did. I get bored up here in Connecticut, so I went ahead and just shaved it all off. And you should have seen my students' faces. The kids were like, "Oh my goodness!" So it was hilarious at the gym. But yeah, it's just hair; it'll grow back. And sporting the massive Khabib Nurmagomedov beard and the shaved head, looking a little bit like Rinat Fakhretdinov over here.
Yeah, you hope. I mean, look, no one wants to see this head without hair on it because this big dome. Yeah, no one wants to see that. No one wants to see that.
You and Greg Rebello basically the same. So Greg always talks about the size of his head. So Coach Greg, shout out to you. Please don't shave your head anytime soon.
I got a big dome. I saw Greg went live on IG earlier, but I wasn't checking out, so God knows what that might have been about. But of course, as always, we appreciate everyone tuning in here for the Fight HQ podcast, and huge thanks to everyone who's been joining the channel here. Of course, the channel is now monetized, so if you want to send a super chat, you can send us a super chat, and of course, those obviously super chats take priority on questions, and of course, we'll go into Discord to answer any questions in Discord. I know there's already been a ton of questions over in Discord. We'll get to that as well, but. Pete, as always, before we start breaking down the fights, talk a little bit about game theory in terms of this card. And, look, I think that there's one fight I've labeled as I don't know if you can avoid it, and that's actually the first fight of the night. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. The main event, I think price point on DraftKings, I think it's very difficult to get away from that. Maybe on FanDuel, I could see maybe why people would get less on that matchup. But then there's some other matchups that I look at are kind of interesting. I mean, in cash, it's going to be hard for me to get away from Joanderson Brito just because I love the matchup for him there. But I think there's some other spots of fights that we really have to be circling and saying we need to make these fights priority.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I think it's an interesting card. I really like the main event from a DFS aspect. I just think the 5-round nature, the quick finishing skills of Magomedov, the overall skill set of Sean Strickland, and just his entire resume, you can get behind a guy like that at a fairly cheap price tag. And then we have some massive favorites, some prospects within the UFC and fighters that I've been looking forward to their return. So I'm excited to see them go out there, regardless of it being a mismatch in certain particular instances. But all in all, I'm expecting a pretty high scoring slate.
Of course, we got our contest over on DraftKings. Of course, you can click the link in the description of this show to join that contest. $10 entry fee, top 3 pay out in that contest. So be sure I got that contest up. I've been twinkling with my hand building in terms of that one, and it definitely, to me, hand building. Joanderson Brito was not the guy I started with, but it was more of how do I develop a lineup to get him in there. And I do think that this is a week where when you look at those options underneath 7.4K on DraftKings, I do think there's some very interesting options over there. Plus also, I'm really kind of interested to see where ownership goes on some of these fights, because that's going to basically play into, in terms of large field GPPs, exactly what I'm going to do over there. Of course, also we got our Discord channel, totally free to join. Great community we have over there at Discord. But Pete, let's get right into the main event. It is Sean Strickland taking on Magomedov. Strickland is a minus 150 betting favorite, plus 125 on the other side. Of course, Strickland 8,500 on DK, $19 on FanDuel. Magomedov is 7,700 on DK, $18 on FanDuel. Pete.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard for me not to like this fight from a DFS aspect. I mean, 8,500 for Sean Strickland, who's 13-5 in the UFC. We have more to work with within his wins. He has some high-profile wins. Abus Magomedov, very dangerous guy, but relatively unproven, if you want me to be honest. I mean, he is only 1-0 in the UFC, and that's a quick first-round victory over Dustin Stoltzfus. It was absolutely impressive. 19 seconds it took. But, I mean, he's up against Sean Strickland, who, outside of Alex Pereira, he's gone the distance or, dominated against some really, really tough adversaries. And Nasruddin Imavov, close fight against Jared Cannonier. We just saw what Jared Cannonier did, a couple weekends ago to Marvin Vettori. So it's really hard for me not to love Sean Strickland here at 8,500. This seems like a guy in Magomedov who a lot of people aren't too keen on accepting a matchup with. And Sean Strickland's at the point where he just doesn't care and he wants to stay active, as you and I talked about pre-show. But like Sean Strickland's going to be the play for me at 8,500. I'm not going to be ignoring Abus Magomedov because of when he wins in impressive fashion, and possibly you could touch the chin and hurt and knock out Sean Strickland. But whenever I see a guy who MMA spars all the time, and that seems this may be like a hot take, but like I put a lot of stock in MMA sparring. Small glove sparring, I think, translates the best. And it seems like it's kind of, obvious. And a lot of guys don't small glove spar as often as they should. And, everybody's doing kickboxing gloves and shin guards, but, the range is different. So we definitely need to get behind a guy who's so acclimated and accustomed to small glove sparring in Sean Strickland. And a lot of times his sparring is basically like a damn fight. So I'm going to be backing the 13-5 veteran here in the UFC and Sean Strickland. And that's just inside the UFC. I just love his entire skill set, his resume. Give me Strickland here at 8,500, but I'll get to a lot of both sides.
Yeah, when I saw the price tag on this one and saw the betting line, one of my initial thoughts was kind of like, okay, what do the odds makers or what do the betting public see in this matchup that I don't see it? Because I think Sean Strickland should be a bigger favorite. And you mentioned about how he loves to spar. Yeah, he'll spar anybody. You don't have to be a professional fighter. If you want to just be a dude off the street wants to come in and spar, he'll spar you. And then he'll ask you how hard you want him to go.
Yeah, I mean, he's a character, right? Like that's the best way to put it. He's a character. No filter, dangerous on the microphone.
Yeah, no filter. That's a great way to describe Sean Strickland.
Company liability, mentally unstable, but seems like a great, he's a great asset to a team, but he seems like he's very smart too. Like he plays the role a little bit, but as far as like MMA, he's pretty intelligent in there, so he knows what he's doing.
He just seems like that guy in the gym that all of his training partners know, no matter what, Sean Strickland's going to be at practice.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. He's consistent, right?
Yeah, I will tell you over on Prize Picks, I do like one of the props for Sean Strickland. I do like the more than 83.5 significant strikes, just because this is a matchup that I think probably goes 3, 4, maybe even 5 rounds. If you tell me this thing gets into the 4th or 5th round, I think Sean Strickland just hammers this number. Look, I think he brings great points. You got to look at the underdog in this situation as well. Now, the co-main event may be the fight that I may be the most interested in terms of this fight card, and that is Grant Dawson and Damir Ismagulov. Ismagulov and Dawson both, this is a pick 'em fight, minus 110 on both sides. They're both $15 on FanDuel. Dawson, 8,000 on DK. Ismagulov is 8,200. And this is one of those fights that I want to see where ownership goes, because if the ownership with Ismagulov stays where it's at right now, he's going to be a guy that I will get to much more than the field.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame you, right? Like, Damir Ismagulov's a guy who, for the most part, the MMA public has been pretty high on. I've always kind of been a little bit beneath that. I thought that he's very good. But I do think that his upside is somewhat capped. He's a pretty damn good striker, never known as a finisher inside the UFC. I mean, hasn't found a finish inside the UFC, has won decisions over Alex Georgis, Joel Alvarez, Thiago Moises, Rafael Alves, and Guram Kutateladze. And that Guram fight was super close, and I thought he lost it. But he's most recently coming off a defeat to Arman Tsarukyan, like the boogeyman for the division, and now he's going up there against Grant Dawson, who has a similar style, but a very, very heavy grappling style, where Tsarukyan will be okay with striking with you, and until it's not going in his favor, and then he'll incorporate the takedowns. He still landed 7 takedowns, despite the fact that Damir Ismagulov stuffed 14 of them. So I do think that is a complete game plan here for Grant Dawson. Obviously, needs to go out there and utilize his wrestling. He's massive for the division. I want to see him attempting 17, 15, 20 takedowns. He has attempted 17 takedowns in the past against Jared Gordon. He scored 7 of them. That's the type of game plan that's going to win him the fight here against Damir Ismagulov. Staying on the outside, trying to work on your striking, and using this fight to level up your striking, I don't think is the recipe for a win. Being prepared at American Top Team is huge in my book. I hold Grant Dawson in, in a high tier within a division. I do think at a point he was capped because of his striking deficiencies, but I will say that he's improved drastically down in American Top Team. It was a great move for him, and I do think that he possesses the skills to win rounds. So I'm going to be picking Grant Dawson here at 8,000. But as far as like an ownership play, I can totally get behind Damir Ismagulov, who is well-rounded. He absolutely is well-rounded and can win this fight against Grant Dawson if Dawson has a poor game plan.
And one of the things where you've seen you talk about the improvements you've seen in Grant Dawson, so it's going down the ATT. To me, cardio is one of the biggest things. And by the way, Scott, appreciate the super chat there, much appreciated. But it seems like he has corrected that hole in his game down at American Top Team. And I mean, look, this is a guy. I want to say he's been ATT for. I almost feel like it's almost been like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. He's been down there.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like it's probably about 2 years now. I remember like it was yesterday. I know you do too.
Yeah, no, because I remember because I knew how close him and James Krause were. Of course, we all saw what happened there, and I'll also appreciate Samuel with the super chat. He wants to help you out a little bit there, Pete.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much. Right, like this is so cool. Jason and I get to go on here and talk about fights. We've been doing it for years, and now that we have a community that really looks forward to our breakdowns and now it's because of your constant support to the growth of this channel, the Discord, everything, making this possible. And the sky's the limit thanks to you guys.
Yeah, it's always crazy when I'm out and about and people are like, yeah, man, I was watching you and Pete's show earlier today. I was like, really?
Yeah, I know, exactly. When people say that to me too, I'm like, that's cool. I still haven't been like, somebody hasn't said anything to me publicly. But it's outside of like people that I know. I still like people listen on the podcast platforms and whatnot. It's super cool. And, Jason and I really, really appreciate the support.
Yeah, of course, you can watch us here on YouTube. We're also on the audio platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I know we're getting, again, I was looking at the numbers the other day. We're doing pretty well over there on those platforms as well. So, as always, we appreciate everyone tuning in here. But to me, on this Dawson Ismagulov 5, I kind of lean Damir. But I think this could be a very good live betting situation, which is something that we've always talked about of sometimes. I don't mind if you want to go for a crazy prop. Maybe Grant Dawson wins round 3. I think is an interesting one, but I do think that this matchup probably does go all 15 minutes. Next up, we got Michael Morales returning, taking on Max Griffin. Morales is a minus 250 betting favorite, plus 205 for Max Griffin, 9,000 on DK for Morales. He's $20 on FanDuel, and then over there on DraftKings, 7,200 for Griffin and $11 on FanDuel, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how everybody feels this week, but Michael Morales might be the 9,000 option I'm going to be completely underweight to. And I'm not, it's not like recency bias. It's not because I'm hating on that Adam Fugit fight so much. I don't like it. I don't like that performance, but he did come back in the 3rd round and end up, putting him away. But like Adam Fugit is he's well-rounded, but he's nothing special. And when I see Max Griffin, I see a very well-rounded, underappreciated talent within the welterweight division who's 7-7 in the UFC. And whenever somebody sees 7-7, they automatically assume, just journeyman. And Max Griffin, within that 7-7 record, has gained a ton of experience. And experience is something that I am really, really siding with. More so now than anything, experience inside the UFC against some huge names, big moments. I don't have to worry about these guys underperforming, because of the bright lights or the pressure. I've already seen them be tested inside the toughest organization in mixed martial arts. So I'm going to be picking Max Griffin here. And I do think that he can compete on the feet. Morales is solid on the feet, has big power. I think that Max Griffin just knows how to win rounds too, and he's in close fights. So this could be like a split decision defeat. He does like to, make fights super close and lose them narrowly or win them by small margins. But what he can do is he can pin his opponents against the cage, really get some octagon control in there. Whether he's going to be successful with the takedowns is something to be seen. But I think, kind of just clinch fighting against the cage, reversing position, trying to take away the danger early on and then chip away as the fight goes on. So give me Max Griffin here at 7,200. That's the 9,000 fighter I'm underweight to is Michael Morales. So I'll be siding with the vet in Max Griffin.
Of course, looking at ownership projections, obviously Max Griffin, I think, is going to be a very popular play over there because of his salary over there on FanDuel. My only concern, and I'm with you, everything you say there. My only concern about Max Griffin is, in a win, is he going to score enough points? And that's just my concern about the fantasy upside.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you as far as like upside. Could he knock him out? Sure. He's knocked out, Song Kanan. That what he hit him with was beautiful. Before that, he got a TKO over Ramiz Brahimaj, but that was largely due to the ear injury. So inside the UFC, we haven't seen him be a finisher. Eric Montano, don't even really know who that is. He picked up a first round victory back in 2016. He's going to float within that 70, low 80 point range, but given the price tag, I think it's enough, right? Like a win is a win, a decision's great, and sometimes all you need is a decision win, and it allows you to pay out for two high 9,000 options within your lineup. So that's what I'm banking on. That's what I'm hoping on. But if you told me Max Griffin got 100 points or close to it, it would absolutely blow my mind. I think it's like a 5% chance of that outcome.
Now, next matchup is the matchup I really want to hear Pete's thoughts on, because I've been looking at this underdog in this spot here for now about the past 24 hours or so, and that is Melissa Gatto taking on Ariane Lipski. Lipski is a plus 190 betting underdog, minus 234 Gatto. Gatto $8,700 on DK, $17 on FanDuel. Lipski $7,500 on DK, $13 on FanDuel, Pete.
Yeah, I'm going to be siding with Ariane Lipski here. 4-5 in the UFC against Melissa Gatto, who's 2-1. And Melissa Gatto starting off hot in the UFC, victory over Victoria Leonardo, finishing Sijara Eubanks with that body kick. Maybe I held Sijara Eubanks in such high regard, a little bit too high on my list. And, I was always thinking about the what ifs and how she was so well-rounded and she could have become something that she never really materialized into. To lose a fight to Tracy Cortez, who's an excellent wrestler, an excellent fighter within the division, I just thought that Melissa Gatto would be a little bit more threatening in that fight. So now we have her paired up against Ariane Lipski, who at one point was, if you look at her record, it's not good at all. But again, I'm going to be siding here with experience. I mean, she's fought Joanne Calderwood, Molly McCann. I'm going to go through the list. Isabel De Padua, Luana Carolina, Antonina Shevchenko, Montana De La Rosa, Mandy Bone, Priscilla Cachoeira, and most recently picking up a victory over JJ Aldrich. And leading up into that fight, I was kind of talking to you about, the changes and how she has been working with Amanda Nunes and that team, that small private gym. And I think it worked wonders for Ariane Lipski. You don't need to be a part of a massive gym, but you need to be a part of something that is tailored around your skill set and helping you improve in your deficiencies. And I do think that, what they brought to the table in Ariane Lipski in that fight was on full display. I mean, she really made JJ Aldrich look terrible. And Aldrich was a massive, massive favorite leading up to that fight. And I'm going to be backing her in this bout as well. So I'm going to be picking Ariane Lipski to, outpoint Melissa Gatto en route to a victory. But there is one way to beat Ariane Lipski, and that's just attempt to take her to takedown city. And could it happen? Gatto's attempted 6 takedowns against Tracy Cortez, who's an excellent wrestler. She landed 3 of them. She had 3 minutes of control time. I think that if she laced up her wrestling shoes in this bout, she'd probably have a little bit, higher numbers. But I'm still going to be backing the development and improvement that I saw from Ariane Lipski, and it's mainly because of the number. I just don't like Gatto's price tag. I don't like the 8,700 price tag. I don't like the almost minus 250 territory. So I'm going to be siding with the value here in Ariane Lipski at approaching a 2-1 underdog, a plus 200 underdog. So give me Lipski here at 7,500.
Yeah, she's one of those fighters I have circled this week, not just because of, looking for some underdogs to play here, but also looking at ownership projections and just, there's just not a ton of ownership going her way. But that is definitely somewhere I'm thinking about going in terms of that one. And don't really love anything over there on Prize Picks in terms of this one. I think if you were going to look at anything, I might look at the Melissa Gatto 1.5 takedowns and thinking that, she probably can get 2 takedowns if she's going to go in that victory, but not a Prize Picks play I really love over there. I will say the next fight is something I do like over in Prize Picks. We'll get that after we get Pete's breakdown. Of course, that's Ismael Bonfim taking on Benoit Saint Denis. Saint Denis is a plus 250 betting underdog, minus 320 for Bonfim. Bonfim 9,200 on DK, $21 on FanDuel, and for Saint Denis he's 7,000 on DK, $10 on FanDuel. Pete,
do you remember when Benoit Saint Denis got his ass kicked by Zaleski dos Santos, and it wasn't close at all? Like that's the replay constantly in my mind when I think of Benoit Saint Denis. Now he rebounded from that really well against Nicholas Stolze, who never really materialized into anything inside the UFC, and Gabriel Miranda. So back-to-back second round finishes. So he's learned from that experience and improved upon it. The issue here is his striking, and I see so many openings for Ismael Bonfim here. To let his hands go, to dominate him on the feet. Bonfim is a talented grappler in his own right. Benoit Saint Denis is going to be pushing a pace, and I think that Ismael Bonfim is going to, accept the pace, match it, and just dominate in all sequences. So I think Bonfim can threaten submission-wise to make Benoit Saint Denis kind of pause and then get back to, stand up and then let's trade, or at least stuff some takedowns en route to a nice finish here. So I'm a big fan of Bonfim. The Bonfim brothers are nasty. I liked what I saw against Terrence McKinney. We do know, and we have heard and seen Terrence McKinney's wrestling on full display. He's a great wrestler. He's just a super volatile MMA fighter, right? He goes out there and he's a high upside type of fighter where he can go out there and get quick finishes, but he can also get taken out of there once his cardio expires. And, what I saw from Bonfim, just kind of, getting better positions than Terrence McKinney and then resulting into a beautiful flying knee knockout. I like what I see. The fight film jumps off the tape. It just looks great in all areas. So I'm going to be backing him at 9,200 here. We have some massive favorites on the card. Bonfim's one of them. But you could be looking at everybody's picking Joanderson and Brito, and then the other 9,000 options are somewhat being underweight. So I'm going to be going with Bonfim here at 9,200. I don't hate the dog shot on Benoit Saint Denis because perhaps this is a card where you need a losing fighter, and because of his high takedown potential, maybe he gets it. But I just think that Bonfim makes light work here, dominates him on the feet, and result to a finish inside of 2 rounds. So give me Bonfim here at 9,200.
And in terms of Prize Picks, I do like the more than 50.5 significant strikes on Bonfim, just because I think this fight goes into the late second, maybe even early third round. By the way, I know we have some people who are just like me who live in the state of Florida, Pete. Big news on the gambling front here is a big win court by the Seminole Tribe. So it's Archon reading and say could be clearing the way for sports betting to be back legal in the state of Florida again. Ooh.
Oh, dang. Good for you guys.
The only thing that was bad about it was it was up for like a month, they would not offer prop bets on MMA.
Yeah.
It was just straight money line. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
But good news here in the state of Florida, apparently. Now I'm sure there'll be an appeal. You know how this state goes, but that's a big win for us here in the state of Florida. But I will say this: Bonfim Saint Denis, like if you play at a sports book that has a fight of the night prop, this may not be a bad one to choose.
Imagine if they had that. I don't know if they have that.
They do, cool. Yeah. There are some books that do offer fight of the night props.
Oh, dang. I think I'd be pretty damn good at targeting those fights. But yeah, this fight jumps off the page to me. Benoit Saint Denis, 135, 105 in both of his wins. He's going to be high owned just because of if he wins, he scores well. But I think that Bonfim could be a beautiful pivot, as Sam is mentioning in chat, where if you don't want to spend all your salary, just pivot to Bonfim. I think he could give you comparable score to Joanderson and Brito.
Next up, we've got a fighter that is getting a massive amount of ownership in Bruno Ferreira, who is a minus 220 betting favorite. The underdog here is plus 180. Ferreira, 8,400 on DK, $17 on FanDuel. And then, of course, his opponent, 7,800 on DK, $13 on FanDuel, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Bruno Ferreira here against Nursulton Ruziboev. I like the power of Bruno Ferreira. That was on full display as he knocked out Gregory Rodriguez in 4 minutes. And that's what's dangerous, because he could be losing the fight and then one counter shot just completely changes everything. He has that next level power, that death touch about him. But also regionally, if you go back and you watch his tape, like, he's a very powerful takedown artist as well. And he can land takedowns. He's a good jiu-jitsu player as well. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. I don't worry about him, in such scrambles. He's very, very powerful and strong. So whether he muscles out of certain positions, he kind of does, but he knows what he's doing. And he's a jiu-jitsu guy who just throws bombs too. So he'll get a good position and he'll start hammer fisting away en route to a quick finish. So I like him here. And I think it's the price tag. There's just so many unknowns about Nursulton Ruziboev for me that I get the respect, but I also just don't trust in, the sample that I've seen. You know what I mean? So I want to see him in the UFC against Bruno Ferreira. I'm going to take a wait and see approach to this. Bruno's just, I have watched tape and I know guys that he's beating, and I really like him here at 8,400. I think the entire field's going to like him, and it's a price tag thing. So can't blame you. I like Ferreira, but if Nursulton Ruziboev is going like single digits, he is dangerous, but his hands are low, equivalent to Bruno Ferreira. I'm just expecting Ferreira to land one of these shots and the debut to be a little too much for Ruziboev.
Could be, I will say, Bruno Ferreira over on FanDuel, I think, is an interesting MVP spot if you want to kind of get away, especially from that main event. It's somewhere where I would be looking to go there. Next up, we got Rinat taking on the returning Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee is a plus 170 betting underdog, minus 200 for Rinat. Rinat, 8,800 on DK, $16 on FanDuel. Lee, 7,400 on DK, $14 on FanDuel, Pete.
You know how close I was to picking Kevin Lee? I'm so close to picking Kevin Lee here, but then, I'm leaning on experience, obviously. He's 11-7 inside the UFC. Smaller welterweight, but still, he's good size. He's training out of Killcliff FC, so I really like that. I like the bodies there. He's working a lot with Gilbert Burns. That's excellent. He's a true dominant welterweight. But what I don't like is his previous performance against Diego Sanchez. And you and I were talking, it's just like, man, Diego is just, he's so not UFC caliber at this moment. And I thought Kevin Lee looked pretty poor. And against a guy in Rinat Fakhretdinov, who is a prospect within the UFC and within the welterweight division, nobody wants to fight him. Rinat is super dangerous. And what he possesses is a ridiculous pace. High takedowns, high ground and pound, throws bombs. Has cross-trained, was at American Top Team a little bit. I did see now he's at Evolve MMA. So it's just like he seems like he's ready no matter where he is inside on the world. So it's like he's training constantly. The one issue is on relative short notice, is his cardio up to par to match his typical fighting style? Because if his cardio is not there, this step up of competition could result in a failure. This could be a learning experience for Rinat Fakhretdinov. If he had a full camp and I knew that he was completely in shape, I think that it's an easy Rinat Fakhretdinov call. But because of the uncertainties that lie here and the massive price tag and everybody just thinking that Rinat's going to walk over Kevin Lee is difficult to hold down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, he can get taken down, but he's going to work back up. That can work two ways. That can either boost Rinat Fakhretdinov's takedown totals and we could see him break the entire slate, or it could result in Kevin Lee, scrambling out of positions, getting up, and then kind of picking apart Rinat Fakhretdinov on the feet. I am more interested in the underdog than probably the public, but I love this fight. I think that this is going to be a ridiculous fight. I have a feeling that Rinat Fakhretdinov is just going to take down Kevin Lee and bring him to Takedown City. And despite being prepared, I do think that the get up ability, the stand up ability of Kevin Lee is going to result in higher takedown numbers for Rinat Fakhretdinov. Less control, more takedown numbers. So I'm okay with that. It's a lean towards Rinat Fakhretdinov, but man, UFC experience is unmatched. And 11-7, this could be a buy low spot on Kevin Lee, and I'm going to be having more than the public.
Of course, having the comments talking about, Kevin Lee, first fight since those knee surgery that he did have. And I mean, look, my concern with Kevin Lee is just not having the body frame to go up against, these 170ers in the UFC. I mean, he's a big 55er that just cutting down the 55 is not the most ideal thing at this point in his career. And that just to me is a concern in there. But, when you're talking about taking an underdog shot, I don't mind getting to Kevin Lee in this spot here as well. And over on Prize Picks, I think this thing's going 15 minutes, Pete. That's why I like the over 14 and 3/4 fight time minute on Rinat, just because I think this thing's going to go 15 minutes. Next up, we got the biggest betting favorite on the card, and when we say biggest betting favorite, it is by a mile. Joanderson Brito, a minus 1,400 betting favorite, taking on Westin Wilson, who's plus 800. Brito 9,600 on DK, $23 on FanDuel. Wilson is 6,600 on DK and $8 on FanDuel. I'll tell you, I've interviewed Westin Wilson countless times, Pete. This is a guy that he's in the IT field. So he's been kind of around the country training at various gyms. When I first met him, I want to say he was training in Dallas. Then he was in Utah. Then he was in California. His black belt in jiu-jitsu is under Giva Santana. So I think for the OGs of sport, they know who the arm collector is. And now he's over with the Wonder Boy team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he has an interesting style for sure. Westin Wilson, he's pretty damn big for the division, to be honest. But this is a massive, massive step up in competition. And basically what it is, it's an opportunity inside the UFC. Go out there and try to look somewhat competitive early, despite what his fate probably is. And it's probably a first round defeat to Joanderson Brito, who's going to be an absolute monster. I really like Brito. I think everybody likes Brito. Obviously Vegas, everybody's behind him here. He has exceptional high upside. First round victory over Lucas Alexander, first round submission, took him down twice, submitted him, didn't really throw much, scored 104, was priced at 9,400. That is the one fear that, Joanderson Brito here at 9,600 can win just beyond the quick win bonus and too fast to accrue more points. The first round victory over Andre Feely, he knocked him out in 41 seconds and scored 130 fantasy points. So that is more like it. That's what we like to see at 9,600. If Westin Wilson can possibly get to his feet more, we could see more takedowns for Joanderson Brito. Or maybe Westin Wilson gets knocked down several times. You can never really predict knockdowns in MMA, especially when you're trying to justify a price tag. At 9,600, I think that he's a fantastic play. It's probably the easiest pick on the entire slate, where it's just like take the 100 points and move on. Who cares about that extra couple? Because if you have all the combinations of it, it shouldn't matter. But as far as just like other 9,000 options out there, it's not a week where we are limited with beautiful 9,000 options. We have nice ones. So I'm okay with pivoting off of Joanderson Brito, but for the most part, he's the number one pick in your lineups. Start there, get different elsewhere. Expecting a high performance. Westin Wilson, the only thing I saw on tape that I thought could be interesting in this fight against Joanderson Brito is the elusiveness that he has. Could lead to a longer fight than most people are expecting. His length, same thing. And also that straight left hand. So Westin Wilson having a very dangerous straight left hand could possibly land on Brito. I mean, upsets happen all the time. I'm going to probably just put Westin Wilson in a few within a 150 just because it is MMA. But for the most part, I'm expecting Joanderson Brito to get inside of that reach and make quick work of Westin Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, the only concern you have on Westin Wilson, or I should say two concerns, is the first concern is the strength of competition in his victories versus the strength of competition in his losses. Also, not really a great look when you know his last loss was a knockout loss to Teruto Ishihara. You know, in terms of cash, I'll be all over Joanderson Brito in terms of this one. You know, and then when it comes to large field GPPs, for me, it'll just be just trying to figure out a balance of how much do I think is too much for Joanderson Brito in terms of what the rest of my lineup is going to be when I've got a 9,600 fighter in it. Next up, we got a female matchup. We got Karol Rosa taking on Yana Santos. Yana Santos plus 145 betting underdog, minus 170 for Rosa. Rosa A600 on DK, $16 on FanDuel. And then Santos is 7,600 on DK, $14 on FanDuel. And this is at featherweight.
Yeah, this is an interesting fight. Karol Rosa on paper looks to be the higher volume fighter, the better overall mixed martial artist in 2023. But I do view her as somewhat untrustworthy still. I mean, like Norma Dumont's a very talented fighter. She most recently lost to Norma Dumont, scored 51 in the loss. So she picked up a knockdown, which was great. 51 fantasy points in a loss is pretty damn good. So I'm a little worried that Karol Rosa could go out there and just manage Yana Santos everywhere. But the one thing about Yana Santos is that she's fought top tier competition too. Outside of Norma Dumont, I mean, Karol Rosa's fought Lena Landsberg, Betch Correa, Jocelyn Edwards, Laura Procopio, Vanessa Mello, Sarah McMahon, and we saw what happened against Sarah McMahon. So what I like to say, and this week is all about siding with experience. I'm going to be siding with Yana Santos, training out of American Top Team. I like how these big gyms prepare their fighters strategically and physically. So I'm going to be backing Yana Santos in a close fight. If it's a close fight, I'm going to be leaning towards the experience and the stronger gym. I think that it's similar to the Max Griffin fight as an underdog who can control their opponent against the cage, have controlled minutes, dictate where the fight's going, and make rounds close. Will they necessarily win? No, but at their number, I'm willing to take a shot. So at almost a plus 150 underdog, I'm going to be siding with Yana Santos here. If it's on the outside, I think she just gets out-volumed. But yeah, I'm going to be picking Yana Santos. I think she's going to be a little bit more physical than Karol Rosa in the clinch.
Yeah, I'm looking at that Karol Rosa 1.5 takedowns prop over there on Prize Picks, and I kind of like the more over there on that one. So we'll see how that one does play out there. Then we got our another big betting favorite here on this on Guram, a minus 650 betting favorite against Brenner, who's plus 475. Guram 9,400 on DK, $22 on FanDuel, and Brenner is 6,800 on DK, $9 on FanDuel. And this is, I think, is another potential if you want to get off of Joanderson Brito. I think this is another option to look at here, Pete.
Yeah, I love Guram Kutateladze. I love him a lot. I think that he's a fantastic fighter for the lightweight division. He's really, really good. We saw him in his debut against Mateusz Gamrot, then took a couple years off, and then most recently fought Damir Ismagulov, and that was a split decision defeat, but I thought he won that. He's very, very good. In that fight, what I thought was interesting is he was attempting takedowns. He attempted 7 takedowns, landed only 1. Damir is a very, very talented, well-rounded mixed martial artist. Guram, for the most part, gets his work done on the feet and is just slicker than everybody kickboxing-wise. But all this work over the years with Khamzat Chimaev and his entire team has really, honed his jiu-jitsu skills and his grappling skills. Most recently, I was checking out their training footage, and he's training with my boy Khamzat Chimaev. And I know that Khamzat isn't going 100% in these grappling situations and scrambles, but Guram is good at grappling. He is good. He's reversing. He's preventing. He's countering. He's attacking. I really like it, not just from a jiu-jitsu standpoint, but also from a wrestling and counter-wrestling standpoint. I think he has Elvis Brenner everywhere in this matchup. Brenner really shocked everybody picking up a split decision over a low-volume cardio liability in Zubaira Tukhugov, picking up 60 points, priced at 6,600. Guram was supposed to fight a couple weekends ago and pulled out, but according to his social media, that was due to visa issues. So that makes me feel really happy that it wasn't an injury or it wasn't injury related. So yeah, I love Guram Kutateladze here. He seems super prepared for this matchup against Elvis Brenner. A beautiful pivot from Joanderson Brito, who could win in dominant fashion, but not score enough. Guram looks like he could possibly go out there and put together an outlier performance, one we haven't seen. Because inside the UFC, it's been 56 points and 37 points. So I can see why people are like, yeah, I'm going to get off of this Guram Kutateladze play at 9,400. But I'm thinking the opposite. I want to get Guram Kutateladze in my lineups because I truly believe in the skill set. I believe in Joannis and Brito's skill set. I believe in Guram's, and it's just a small difference in price. So I'm going to be backing Guram here heavily at 9,400.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this. To me, it's about the matchup here, and I think this is potentially one of those guys that could potentially be one of the highest scores of this weekend. Next up, we got a matchup that is potentially the fight of the week that offers the leverage spot because of the ownership on both sides. I mean, maybe you're not going to feel confident about it, but I'm just saying, as we sit here on a Friday afternoon, that's where we sit at here. The female matchup between Ivana and Carolina. Ivana minus 225 betting favorite, plus 185 for Carolina. Ivana's 8,900 on DK, 7,300 for Carolina, and then 18 and 12 respectively on FanDuel, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I sound like a broken record, and I'm going to be siding with Luana Carolina here. Underdog shot, 3-3 in the UFC, 6 fights in the biggest organization in mixed martial arts compared to Ivana Petrovic looking to debut against, a tough fighter, but nothing special. So we'll see if Petrovic is legitimate or not. I just don't like the price tag. 8,900, super, super rich, approaching minus 250 territory. It's way too much for me. We can get Luana Carolina here at plus 180. She's fought the likes of Priscilla Cachoeira, Ariane Lipski, Poliana Botelho, Lupi Godinez, Molly McCann, Joanne Calderwood. I mean, staples within the division. And at some point, and at certain points, she's actually done well. She's defended takedowns well. She's thrown at high volume. She was knocked out in spectacular fashion against Molly McCann. Yes. She was submitted with a knee bar against Ariana Lipski. Yes. Lupi Godinez, I thought was going to ragdoll her into like takedown city, like the highest takedown city numbers we've ever seen. And, what did Luana Carolina do? She stuffed 13 takedown attempts. So if we see Petrovic go out here and attempt takedowns, I think it's going to be harder to come by than what Petrovic may be anticipating. On the feet, Luana is very long. She throws combinations. Sometimes it's just her output and accuracy. So I think the bright light's going to be a little bit too much for Ivana Petrovic. It's a numbers play. I like the underdog here at 7,300, siding with the vet or slight vet in Luana Carolina.
You loving the female underdogs this week. I mean, look, and it's not a bad thought process to have. I think when you're looking at underdogs, they typically do come in female matchups. Now we got our opening fight of the night. This is a fight that I've been waiting to talk to Pete about. Is Alexander Romanov taking on Blagoy, even off Romanov a minus 135 betting favorite, plus 115 for Blagoy. Blagoy 7,900 on DK, $15 on FanDuel, and Romanov 8,300 on DK, $16 on FanDuel. I know there was a comment earlier on in the chat asking if you're still on the Romanov fanboy fan club, but this is the one thing when I was looking at Romanov this weekend. I mean, obviously we can talk about the physical, the way he looked on the scale, but like as time has gone on, like I don't know who his best UFC win. It might be Marcos Rogerio de Lima.
Yeah, it is. And what the hell is going on with my boy? This seems like, to me, right, a guy that was so accustomed to winning that losing might have broken him. It really might have broken him because I don't know what's going on. Like outside the UFC, you can get away with just being a fat, flubby heavyweight. But if you don't have, if you're going to be a fat, flubby heavyweight, you need to have cardio. You can still be a fat man in the division and like just still be decent at cardio. He's a round one guy, and it's nothing else. Marcin Tybura just took all of the hype from Alexander Romanov. I picked Alexander Volkov against Romanov because I know what Volkov can do to people, and it looked like Romanov attempted those takedowns and then gave up. 5 takedowns he attempted. Cardi was out, and then Volkov just pieced him up en route to a first round finish. Now, this is the tricky part because I was hoping Romanov got a little kick in the butt and then made some adjustments and changes within his camp, within his personal life, and started to come in shredded again, as he did in several of his fights, like when he was a minus 2,000 favorite over Chase Sherman, like looking good leading up to a fight. And then I see him step on a scale, and the guy who used to be in the 230 range in his best time in the UFC is now, barely making heavyweight division. It's just like, you can be a big heavyweight, but at least look good. He looks similar to his past two performances, and it's like, oh my God. Now on the flip side, we got Blagoy-Ivanov, a guy who is old as hell, hasn't picked up a finish inside the UFC, but because of the volatility of Romanov, I'm intrigued with Blagoy-Ivanov here as possibly, hurting Romanov as the fight goes on, or, just walking into a finish because of Romanov's like quitting tendency. It seems like now, it almost seems like Romanov is a bully all these years, and once a bully gets humbled, they don't know what to do mentally. I hope I'm wrong, because you guys know I love my boy Romanov, but I just don't like his career choices and what the hell's going on. Now, if Blagoy-Ivanov was training consistently out of Extreme Couture, I'm picking Blagoy-Ivanov. This could be close, because Romanov could finally rebound, pick up a decision over Blagoy-Ivanov. I don't foresee him finishing Blagoy, because Blagoy is very, very tough to finish and put away.
Mm-hmm.
But what Marcin Tybura did was a little late against Blagoy-Ivanov. If he incorporated grappling early, I think it would have been a very dominant performance and possibly could have submitted him. But, yeah, man, this is tough, right? Like, I want to back the grappling skills out of Romanov, but I'm also just so nervous that he's just going to go out there and quit. I'm going to say a Blagoy-Ivanov decision. That's what I'm going to do, Jason. I'm going to say that. And like for DFS, I'm going to be overexposed to both sides. But I just can't trust my boy anymore. I think that he's got like 1 round cardio, and that is it.
Yeah, I was mentioning when I did my podcast earlier on this week. Wow, that's an interesting message I just got. I'll respond to that after the show. Was a Blagoy wins round 3 prop.
Mm-hmm. What's it at? Plus 200,000?
Let's see here. Well, plus, if he wins via submission round 3, that's plus 4,000. I'm just looking for a straight up wins round 3 prop.
I love playing those, by the way.
Because look, I don't think you can, even off wins round 3 plus 1,900. I just don't think you can trust the cardio of Romanov. And Blagoy is a guy who's not been finished since 2014, and that was back in Bellator. So this is a durable guy. Of course, look, who knows what happens? But like, one of the things I wrote about this fight is like, can you avoid it? And I feel like if you're going to play it, you're most likely going to play the Romanov side with the fantasy score upside of maybe he does get him out within a round, but don't have a lot of faith in it.
Dude, his forearm choke is bogus. You know what I mean? Like he'll take people down. It's not like a legitimate move. It's not like he's doing an Ezekiel choke. He's literally just getting people in half guard or side control and grabbing onto their trap and putting his forearm in their throat, tripoding, and turning his shoulder into them. That's so low level. Like, that is not going to work against a veteran in Blagoy-Ivanov, or it shouldn't. If that works, it is just, they've proven that how volatile that division is in low-level heavyweights, and I consider Blagoy low-level heavyweight, even though he's a tough out. It's just super volatile. I'm going to lean with the dog.
Of course, if you got any questions, if you want to throw in a super chat, your question will go to the top of the queue. Of course, also, we'll take questions that have already come in from Discord. Let's get into our straight-up fight picks. Main event, I'm going with Strickland. The co-main event, man, I keep going back and forth on this one. I'm going to go Damir, but don't feel great about it.
Okay, I respect it. I'm going Grant Dawson.
I'll go Morales.
Going Max Griffin.
Give me underdog number 1 in Lipski.
I like underdogs this week, I guess.
Gonna go Bonfim. Ferreira.
Yep, Ferreira.
Another one I keep going back and forth on. I'm going to go Rinat.
Yeah, Rinat lean for me.
Brito.
Give
me Rosa.
Yana Santos for me.
I'll go with another favorite here in Guram.
Yep. Guram Kutateladze for me.
You were really selling me on Carolina, but I'm still going to say Ivana.
Okay, I'm going Luana.
And I'm going to go, give me another underdog in Blagoy.
Blagoy as well. And did we skip the Bonfim Benoit Saint Denis? Because I'm going Bonfim.
Oh, Bonfim.
Yeah.
I did not do that on purpose. Let me just say that. Did not do that on purpose here. Get into some questions that came in on Discord earlier today. Gotta scroll up the channel up here a little bit here. Favorite prize picks plays. Sean Strickland over 83.5 significant strikes, over 15.5 significant strikes on Bonfim, over 14 3/4 fight time minutes on Rinat, under 1.5 takedowns on Brito because I think he may only need one. And then the only other one that I'm really kind of in would be Rosa over 1.5 takedowns in terms of there.
Just want to say that Jason's prize picks plays are disgusting. He's so good. He's so good at it.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you, the key is even though when I was on my prize picks, I saw I have a promo for a free 6 parlay, so I'm about to come with the 6th one, which, I mean, look, it's hard enough to hit 5 in MMA. That's why I tell you, do 2 or 3 in MMA. That is the way to be. I know we all love chasing the money. We all love getting these big GPPs. Sometimes you just got to take the easy route. Got to take the easy route. Get those 2-3 parlays in there. Value plays under 8K on DraftKings, fair MVP on FanDuel, cheap plays on FanDuel. Value plays for me on DK. I look at Kevin Lee. And I think Max Griffin's another one. That's a value play.
I got so many this week. Like, I really do. I mean, I like Dawson at 8,000, but they said under 8,000. I'm going to go with Griffin, Carolina, Lipski, Santos, and Ivanov. I know that's a lot, but, like, I'm serious. I think that the dogs are going to make fights super close. Even if they don't win, I think that it's going to be smart to be overexposed to those fighters.
In terms of a favorite MVP on FanDuel, I do like Sean Strickland, but I mean he's going to have high ownership over there. I think Bruno Ferreira is a guy that I'm really looking at as an MVP on FanDuel.
Yeah, I like Ferreira a lot. I think that he's just very affordable across all platforms.
In terms of cheap plays over there on FanDuel, I think you got to look at someone like a Max Griffin at $11 as a cheap play, but I think his ownership's going to be up there. Carolina at $12, I think is another interesting one. That's a value.
I like Carolina. I do.
Favorite cash plays this week. Joanderson Brito is my favorite cash play this week. I mean, I get it's easy to sit there and say the guy that's the highest salary, but he's the guy with the most confidence in.
That's how you got to play cash. Like no brainers. You got to play cash as no brainers, and he's the biggest no brainer there.
Samuel, appreciate your super chat. He says the best captain plays on the captain slate. Let me pull up the captain slate here.
Yeah, me too.
Bruno Ferreira, I'm guessing that would be a nice little captain spot there. I mean, Sean Strickland, because of volume, I think is another interesting one. Let's see, captain contest.
Yeah, I can't pull it up.
Let's see here. Looking at the captain, so Joanderson Brito 14.4, Bonfim 13.5. If you want to go down, Strickland 12,000. Bruno Ferreira is 11,400.
Your answer.
I mean, look, if Strickland goes all 5 rounds, I mean, he could. His last fight against Amavov, excuse me, he landed 182 significant strikes, scoring 117 points. So, to me, if you think that thing's going to go 5 rounds, but Brunno, I think, is another one that to me really sticks out in that captain contest. But Samuel, appreciate you there in the super chat. I get some other questions over from Discord. Favorite core plays. Is there a mini max number on them? Generally I try to get to like 2 core plays a week, maybe 3. I mean, this week, look, I love Joanderson Brito, but in terms of large field GPPs, that just comes down to it. I do like Brunno at 8,400. I'd probably say like my 3 core plays this week would be Joanderson Brito, Bruno Ferreira, and Sean Strickland.
I don't hate that at all. I think that's a great core to be honest. I mean, I think that Brunno is really hard to get away from. Sean Strickland's really hard to get away from for me as well. Then it comes down to 89,000 option outside of Michael Morales. Bonfim, Kutateladze, and Brito. Comes down to how much salary you need. You know, if you need a lot of salary, pivot off of Brito. If you have plenty of it, take the quick, easy win in Brito. So I'm with you. I think Strickland Ferreira is great. I also think targeting that 8,000, 8,200 fight is usually the easiest path to building a core, and that'd be Grant Dawson for me. I know it'd be Damir for you, but that fight just allows a lot of roster flexibility, and it still is a high upside fight in my opinion.
Favorite inside the distance fights. The Brunno fight sticks out to me as an inside distance. Brito Wilson would be another one. And Bonfim Saint Denis, I think, is another one for me.
Yeah, I'm with you with the Bonfim Saint Denis. I am with you with the Brito and Wilson fight. I think that there's going to be in the Ferreira Ruziboev fight, and I think there's going to be. I really like Guram's inside the distance. I think it's probably going to be at a generous number.
Favorite top punt play. I'm going to go with Ariane and Lipski.
Favorite punt play?
No, she's 7,500. I mean, if you wanted to go lower than 7,500, if you're trying to get below, like, say, 73 and below, Carolina.
Yeah, I'm going to go Carolina as my favorite because I just don't believe in her opponent. Max Griffin's very, very similar there, but I do believe that Michael Morales is skilled. I think that Griffin can win, but I think that, I think that Luana is in a much easier matchup. So I'll be going Luana Carolina as the complete dart throw.
Top leverage plays. To me, as we sit with where ownership's at, Damir, Lipski, and Blagoy. That'd be my top three in terms of leverage.
I like it. And I want to see an ownership update because if what we're seeing is true, Ruziboev is a massive, massive leverage opportunity as well. You know what I mean? So we'll see, but I'm with you. I think that Lipski and Ivanov are probably the most logical and correct underappreciated athletes out there.
Highest odd fights with higher chance to win by decision. So the way I take that question is fights I think are going to go to decision. Rinat Lee is one of those. I would guess Hosta Santos probably goes decision. Ivana Carolina probably goes decision.
Griffin Morales.
Dawson Ismagulov would be another one.
I think Griffin Morales too,
Yeah. And then Sam's number is 6.5. Sam, I think you got a good number this week, man, but give me under.
Ooh, I'm going more.
You got 12 fights, bro. I mean, there are some fights with high,
let me see. One. I also think if there's one thing about Abus Magomedov to kind of touch on real quick, it's just that unknown factor and unknown quality about him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he could go out there and shock a lot of people, including me, including you. So I'm not going to ignore him, but I think the number's really good, Sam. I'm still going to say more, but I can see why Jason's saying less.
Highest upside for takedowns.
Joanderson, Brito, Rinat Fakhretdinov, just because of Kevin Lee's skill to get back to his feet. Romanov. Outside of that, Melissa Gatto is kind of like a really interesting one, even though I'm picking Ariane Lipski. She has attempted 5+ takedowns in 2 fights. Maybe Guram, right? Like Guram going out there just training with Hamzat so much. I think he just beats Brenner wherever the hell he wants.
Next up, rank the 9K options and who are the best leverage plays. Brito to me is number 1 in terms of that. And then I think it's like a 2A, 2B situation with Guram and Bonfim, and then I would put Morales at 4.
Yeah, Morales is my least favorite 9,000 fighter out there, and maybe it hurts me this week. And if you just went out there and you were more aggressive than Michael Morales, you could actually set yourself up pretty well. I hate him the most. I have to tell you. I know that Max Griffin has quit at times and he's super inconsistent, but I just like the other three 9,000 fighters significantly more than Michael Morales.
Yeah, I mean, and Guram to me would be the leverage spot in those 9K options. And obviously that's where you have to use ownership. And I've talked about this for the past couple of weeks of when you're looking at those ownership projections and looking at the fight that's just not getting a decent number of total ownership on both sides. So like if you get in a situation and just say both fighters are underneath 20%, that to me is a fight that you got to kind of circle and say, okay, in large field GPPs, what is the fantasy score upside? That's a big part of my thought process when I'm putting my lines for large field GPPs.
Yeah, I absolutely respect it. I mean, it was working really well for Zach Palga owners 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and then he got screwed on the decision. And then against Modestas Bukauskas, and targeting that fight, yes, a finish didn't happen, but like it was still a pretty damn good score, considering his salary.
Yeah, and of course, last week's card I did not watch live. I watched it after the fact. The Josh Emmett corner, what fight were they watching, Pete?
Why would they say?
I mean, obviously they're cheering their guy up and they're like, you're in this, you're going to take it from, like, bro, you're down 4 rounds to nothing and we got multiple 10-8 rounds. Like, your dude almost got finished. He got 10-7'd. I
know. That's rare. Yeah. Super rare. I mean, Topuria is a monster. He really is.
Hey, you remember when they were talking about putting Topuria against Paddy Pimblett? Good thing that did not happen. That would have been a murder on television.
Yeah, there goes a I don't like calling Paddy Pimblett a superstar, but like a super high profile MMA fighter. You know what I mean? A guy with a massive following.
Massive following, but from a fight aspect, you see the liabilities in the game.
100%.
I mean, look, the UFC and Paddy's management is being very careful in how they match him up. I mean, it's very obvious. But, of course, we got our DraftKings contest. Of course, that's in the description of this show. Be sure to join that. Of course, we also got our Discord channel. Of course, I appreciate everyone tuning in here for the Fight HQ podcast. Of course, if you want to check it out on the audio platforms, it's there as well. I'll get that up here a little bit after show. Pete, anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
No, I mean, for me, my thinking this week is residing with experience and strong gyms. So that's kind of where I'm leaning towards my roster construction. And I like some of the lineups that I'm creating right now. So I'm excited to talk with you guys in the Discord. And thank you guys so much for tuning in, helping us monetize the channel. And we'll be back next week. And can't wait.
Pay-per-view next week.
Is next week the Yair Volkanovski fight?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, Volk's already in Vegas.
Oh, what a damn good fight.
Yeah, that should be a good one. Looking forward to that. Hopefully everyone has a great 4th of July weekend. I'm taking a couple days off, so I'm going to have some fun.
I closed the gym on Tuesday, so that's my kids' class night anyway. So I have a day off, and I have this weekend and Tuesday off, so that's enough for me. But I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to going out and enjoying life. That's what about the best way. If you don't hear from me for a couple hours, that's probably because I'm just having too much fun. So we appreciate everyone tuning in for this episode of Fight HQ. We will be back next week to get you ready for the Yair Rodriguez and Alexander Volkanovski pay-per-view.